Leaders are remembered, be they loved or feared. Alone they are inscribed on the pages of history. But what of the men and women whose hands build their monuments and whose blood stains their battlefields? The people who, against all odds, wield the power to reshape history. People in power at this time on AlJazeera.
What Gaddafi has done, he dismantled or destroyed the system in the country.
As chaos and violence sweep across Libya,
they're living through fear, they're living through a nightmare.
They're using ammunition, live ammunition.
AlJazeera hears from those who have lived in fear of Gaddafi's regime.
We don't want him to leave. We want to arrest him. 42 years is too much.
Libya, a state of terror, at this time on AlJazeera.
If you're a Nokia user, you can download AlJazeera's news widget from Nokia's Ovis store. The news widget, available on compatible Nokia devices, gives users quick and easy access to real-time news updates from AlJazeera English. See the world in real time. AlJazeera Mobile.
A major new assault by Muammar Gaddafi's forces in Libya. A witness in AlJazeera tells AlJazeera of heavy shelling and many casualties. Hello, I'm Darren Jordan. This is AlJazeera live from Doha. We'll have the latest on the battle for AlJazeera. Also coming up, rebels claim control of the strategic oil region of Ras Lanuf, but the government says it's still in charge there. Protesters storm state security headquarters in Egypt after claims officials are destroying documents. Cutting corruption, raising wages. China's premier outlines his targets for 2011. Hello, we begin with breaking news from Libya. Troops loyal to Muammar Gaddafi have launched a new attack on the opposition-held city of AlJazeera. That's 50 kilometers west of Tripoli. It's a battle that could prove vital to Gaddafi's defense of the capital. In the last hour, a witness in the city has told AlJazeera of heavy shelling and gunfire and heavy casualties as the Libyan forces moved in. Here's some of what he told us earlier.
What is happening now is heavy bombing on the city by tanks and heavy weapons and mortars and extremely heavy weapons. And the rebels are struggling to resist with very primitive means. And they have no mercy. They're very brutal. There's a large number of injured and a lot of people killed on the streets. They have no mercy on civilians. The tanks that belong to the regime are attacking anything and everything indiscriminately. And we have no means of defending ourselves. It's a very tragic situation in the city at the moment. We're appealing to the world. There's no one helping us. People should know about this. It's a very grave and serious situation. We're expecting the world to intervene, but they've let us down. They're attacking us with extremely heavy weapons. A number of tanks are in the center of town, and shelling is coming from all sides. They're shooting at the Libyan citizens, and we've made up our mind that we'll die here. The situation is that we're in the middle of the battle, and the shelling is very heavy. We've taken prisoners out of 2 armored vehicles, 1 tank and 1 armored vehicle. Those prisoners we're treating with respect, but they're not respecting us. They're hitting unarmed civilians with all brutality and very severe shelling, and we don't know what to do. Where is the United Nations or the Arab League or anyone from the international community who've spoken about our rights in protecting us? I don't think they mean what they said.
And Tony Bertley joins us live now from Benghazi, that's in the east of Libya. Tony, just bring us up to speed with what's happening in Benghazi where you are and, of course, in the east of the country generally.
Well, Benghazi is calm, it is quiet here. They're focusing on an area about 600 kilometers from here, Ras Lanuf, where there is, we understand, fighting. Now, some members of the opposition here have claimed that rebels have taken that area, and it's a small stretch of land, but it's strategically important because it's on the way to the area of Sirte, which is the stronghold of Gaddafi troops. It would signal that there's a new momentum militarily going on here, but we're not sure because accurate information is very hard to come by.
And Tony, some observers saying this is very much developing into a standoff that could last for some time yet.
It's got that feel about it. I have to say that the momentum seems to have slowed a little bit for the opposition. It seemed 2 weeks ago that Gaddafi was on the verge of leaving. Now he's very much entrenched. He seems to be taking back territory. His forces are emboldened, and the international community really has reached a point where it doesn't know where to go from here. So it is seemingly that this whole thing is grinding to a sort of a momentum which the people here, the opposition, are not very happy about.
Tony, thousands of people turned out yesterday in Benghazi for Friday prayers, denouncing Gaddafi and calling for him to step down. Just talk us through what's happening there today. What's the atmosphere like today?
Well, life is getting back to normal here slowly. You've got shops reopening, banks reopening. There is a move here to get people back to work, to get this city back on its feet, but also there's this move to liberate the country. They understand that they've got fellow countrymen in Tripoli under the yoke, if you like, of Gaddafi. They are very keen to free him, but how do they do that? They were hoping that at first they could do it by themselves. They were then hoping the international community could do it. Now it's coming back to them. The ball is back in their court, and I think that's why we're seeing this mobilization of thousands and thousands of fighters. But I have to say, this is an army from scratch. Some of these people are engineers, they are farmers, they are picking up guns for the first time, and some of them can't use them. So we're now developing to this situation. I've seen it before in places like Bosnia and Croatia, where there's total lack of organisation, and for the first 5 or 6 months there was a problem. But the question is, does this go from being a civil uprising to a civil war? And that's the question people are asking now.
All right, Tony Bertie there in Benghazi. Tony, thank you very much indeed. Now, videos of people said to have been wounded in the fighting at Ras Lanuf have been posted on the internet. We can't independently verify the videos, but here's some of what they say.
We engaged carrying light weapons and a helicopter started shelling us from above. Still, victory will be ours.
We were being bombed by M21 long-range missiles, but I want to assure you that none of our guys backed down. 130 of Monwal's mercenaries were killed. When we drew up near them and their long-range weapons were no longer effective, they fled.
I would like to send a message from this hospital to all the Arab nations. There is no room in the mortuary for the bodies and no place to keep the victims of this vicious and murderous regime.
Well, the situation in Libya's east is developing into a standoff between pro- and anti-government forces. But as Al Jazeera's Jackie Rowland reports, Gaddafi's troops are beginning to fight back.
The situation now in the east of the country is really a stalemate, with anti-Gaddafi forces either unable or unwilling to advance further towards the west and to try to take the fight closer to Gaddafi strongholds like Sirte and Tripoli. The pro-Gaddafi forces also seem unable or unwilling to do much more now apart from scrap against the rebel forces over a few towns in the deserts to the west of Benghazi. Now, when you look at the rebel forces, they're a rather undisciplined, unorderly bunch. Some of them will freely admit to having no military experience as recently as a week ago. And the weaponry they're using is a combination of old Soviet anti-aircraft guns and also some newer weaponry. But they are very undisciplined. They just seem to be letting off ammunition at the moment, wasting ammunition with no particular